I have this pile of spruce boards left over. Then there's this pile as well. Another one here. I have all these boards left over from the pole barn build. What am I going to do with them? Oh, I've got it. I can turn them into this awesome secret door. Come with me, watch this video today. You can see how I turned those spruce boards into this hidden door, also referred to as a Murphy door. And this door here at my home leads into my home office. Join me, let's head back out to the shop, and I'll show you in today's video how I did this. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Woodland Reboot. The building is airtight, and the next steps really include looking at bringing in electrical service, insulating the walls and insulating the ceiling, and then possibly looking at some heating. But in between those videos, I'm going to start doing some little projects that I've been wanting to get to literally for years, if not a couple decades. And the first one that I'm going to look at doing starting right now today is building an affordable hidden door for one of the rooms in my house back in the Ottawa area. So with that, let's get busy, and I hope you enjoy this video. The key to keeping this affordable is, of course, ensuring that your inputs aren't that expensive, and we're going to dress it up so it looks like a set of shelves in that existing doorway. Total cost for this door at Home Depot here in Canada was about $80, and this comes primed, so it's ready to paint. So all I need to do now is to build a structure, a shelf structure that I'm going to attach to the face of this door. So then in terms of affordability, as I mentioned, this is $80. Then I'm pulling lumber out of my existing wood piles, so essentially leftover lumber from the pole barn build. And when you look online, like you can go to Home Depot, for example, and look up hidden doors, you know, I think Canadian, they run anywhere from about $2,200 up to $3,500 Canadian dollars. So they are not cheap. I think I can build it for well under $150. And so I think it's worth the effort. So the next steps right now are that I've gone and selected a number of boards. I think they're 12-foot long boards. You're going to see them in a second from my various wood piles. And I'm going to now start cutting them to length, to width, and planing them up prior to assembly. The door frame I'm working with will allow for a shelf depth of 6 inches. That's not including the trim. So that's pretty good, and I'm pretty pleased with that. So what I've done is I've gone through my various wood piles looking for boards. Again, these are boards I milled up on my sawmill probably about 1.5 years ago. Looking for 6-inch wide boards, cutting them to the lengths that I've decided upon in terms of the dimensions of the shelf that I'm building. And then once that's done, I'm going to take them over and start running them through my 12-inch wide thickness planer. These boards, when I milled them on my sawmill, were rough cut to a thickness of about 7/8 of an inch. So I'm going to plane them down to 3/4. So the objective here is to have a shelf structure made out of spruce lumber that's been drying for more than a year, that's going to be no more than 3/4 of an inch thick. The objective here is to have a shelf structure that is very light, because remember, the shelf is going to get hung on the door, and then of course you're going to put some books and maybe some picture frames on that shelf. Anything you can do to reduce the weight, to take the weight off of those hinges, is a great thing to be able to do with a project like this. My thickness planer is a very basic machine. It's an older Delta model, bought in a box store, so again, not a high-end carpentry machine. The next step is to trim the boards to width, and so what I'm doing here is getting my table saw set up. I'm going to cut or trim these boards to 1/16 to yeah, about 1/16 of an inch wide of 6 inches, and I'm going to clean up the remaining bit on my edger. It's a little awkward managing these longer boards on an edger of this size. It's a smaller tool, but because these are light boards, I'm able to manage. If I was dealing with oak or some other hardwoods, I probably would not be able to ensure that the board stays flat as I move it through the blade area. I could very easily have gone to a big box store and got myself a couple sheets of MDF to build the shelf structure, but I've got all of these spruce boards lying around from the pole barn build, and with little effort, cutting them to size, running them through the thickness planer, putting them over the edger, I'm able to develop or manufacture some pretty good boards that work out quite well in this project. You'll see. I hope the camera can pick this up. This is one of the boards that I've just run through the thickness planer. Here's the other long board. These will make up the long sides of the box that's going to be part of the hidden doorway. And this is what the lumber used to be. This is rough sawn spruce right off the sawmill. It's been curing for a while, but that gives you an idea of how rough the lumber is when it comes off the sawmill. And so I ran it through the thickness planer and the edger, and I have the lumber, the boards that I'm going to use to make the bookcase that is part of the hidden door. Okay, so I've cut all of the pieces to size, so now it's time to do an initial assembly of the unit. First, let's drill some holes for the screws. I thought about using rabbet joints in putting together this shelf unit, but at the end of the day I decided not to. Can't say why, but just decided to go with a screw secured joints throughout the entire shelving unit. T for top. And the front face of the box. And that's the bottom. So you won't see that, that'll be underneath trim at the bottom. I'm now marking the location where I want the shelves inside the frame. And if I can zoom in here, see right there you see a mark, that's at 12 inches. The next one there is at 24. So the first two are spaced at roughly 12 inches, then it goes 10 inches for all of the remaining shelves. So not for large items, more for things like paperbacks and maybe some larger items, not very large, on the lower shelves. So one of the objectives here with this hidden door structure, the shelf structure, was to keep it light and to keep it affordable. Like I say, let's use the word cheap. Let's not shy away from it. I've got all this excess raw milled spruce that I have on my site here, and more importantly, spruce at this dimension, it's a little bit less than 3/4 of an inch. It is very light. And so as you're going to see with the structure and the design that I'm going with for this hidden door, I'm hanging it on a door. So it's going to just be using normal hinges. What you're also going to see later in the build process is there will be a caster wheel on the far end of the bottom to take the rest of the weight of this door. But at the end of the day, because it's built out of rather slim spruce, it's pretty light, right? So that's why I've decided to go with this wood, with this design. Level and plumb. The next step in this process of building the case for the shelving unit that's part of the hidden door is painting. And I'm painting with this primer that is called BIN shellac base. And the idea with this primer, the important aspect of this primer, is that it doesn't allow the knots in the spruce to bleed through. So I've got several knots, as you can see, in the pieces that I've used to assemble this shelf unit, and so this will prevent the pine and the other resins from bleeding through in that final coat of white paint that when I put it on. So what I'll do is I'll switch this over to time lapse. Okay, so I've made the initial notches for the hinges on the door. Unfortunately here I nicked the area just outside the hinge space. Now they're a little rough right now. I'm going to come in and file and sand those a bit tomorrow. I don't have the right tools with me here, believe it or not. Some are back in Ottawa. So that's progress there. The door is coming along. Okay, so the shelf frame is prepared. And then I've also cut just some simple blocks out of 2x3s and given them a rough coat of the shellac. They're going to go in. There's 4 of them, 2 here and then another 2 here. And the purpose of these is so that I have some meat to screw into from the other side of the door when I'm ready to hang this shelf on the door. The purpose right now is just to get these anchored into the shelf, not into the door. What I need to do with the door, given that it's a masonite door and that it's hollow, I'm going to need to put a backing frame of some kind that I can screw through into these blocks that are attached to the shelf frame here. I should probably put some blocks at the bottom also, or a block at the bottom. That would work. That'll be the plan. That'll be concealed, so that'll be an easy one to do. Perfect. So we've got that secured to the top, to the shelf in that direction with 2-inch screws, and I'm going to put in some 3-inch screws over here. This is the back of the door. Again, it's a masonite door. And I'm putting these pieces here. I'm going to take them home and show my son and my daughter. My wife is traveling right now. And see what they think. I could leave them with a clear coat, which will allow me to see the grain, or I can paint them over so they're going to be white like the rest of the door. And the point with these pieces on the back, it gives the door a little bit of a character, but at the same time, it creates a space which I can use to drill through and secure my anchor screws that will go through the door and hold the shelf in place on the other side. So Let's get these in place. I'm going to glue and screw these. Okay, I have the door lined up exactly where I want it on the case. So we're going to drill this in we're going to pre-drill and then drill. Secure the screws, that is. Let me take you guys over here to show you what I'm doing. So, you remember those blocks I put in? So for example, you can see right there, there's one of those blocks. So if you come outside, here's the nailing strip. We're going to go through this nailing strip, probably with 2 screws, into that block. That's the plan. Let's see if we can do it. So that's attached. What I'm going to do, I'm running a little bit low on battery power, so I'm going to turn the camera off, do a few more screws, then flip it over and show you what it looks like. Once I completed painting and sanding the trim pieces for the doorway, I then packed it all in the back of my pickup truck and brought it to my garage in Ottawa, where I continued to work on the shelf. A little bit more elbow grease was needed to get the doorway, or the door, sorry, ready for hanging. As you can see here, I started to fill many of the holes with wood putty, then let it dry, sanded it, and painted it again. In the next video, my son's going to make an appearance because I need another person to help me hang it. So this next video, coming up in about a week or so, will be the hanging of this door. This photo is from June 2008 when we lived in London, UK. The trophy on the left is the European Champions League, the trophy on the right, the English Premiership League. It was the year that United, Manchester United that is, won both these trophies that year. These trophies ended at my son's school. We had the thrill of getting a chance to have a picture with them. Super stuff, great photo to have.